Welcome to the Presence Experience. This isn't a podcast about motivation or quick fixes. It's about discipline, presence, and the real work it takes to build a life you don't need to escape from. I'm Scott. For a long time, I've lived distracted, numbing out, overthinking, and chasing things that never really brought me any real fulfillment. Everything changed when I stopped running from discomfort and learned how to be present with myself. Sometimes these conversations will be just me. Sometimes I'll sit down with people who've lived it as well. No scripts, no masks, just honest conversations for real growth. This is the Presence Experience. Hey, welcome to episode 1 of the Presence Experience. I've been putting this off for almost a year now. Was always waiting for the right time, the right guest, waiting to finish my podcast studio in the basement. But I figured out there really is no time like the presence to just do this. And I want to start off with telling you about a little dream I had last night. It was a chaotic dream, some craziness, but one part stood out to me. And that was when my grandma, she's been passed for about 20 years now. It's my dad's mom. I saw her in my dream, and I met her with tears. I missed her. And the reason I miss her so much was just the presence she had in our family. She was an incredible person. You know, big presence at the church and the school. She was always looking out for other people. Her and my grandpa started Metal Art Campground here in my hometown, Brandon, Manitoba, Canada. It was a campground they just opened up right off the highway, and mobile home park. They lived there along with my Uncle Dave and Auntie Faye and their kids. And they ran this beautiful campground. It was a big part of our lives. And about 20 years ago, I would have been about 25 or so. I'm 45 now. We lost Grandma to cancer. I never really realized how tough that loss was on me until I look back on it. And how it kind of programmed me in a way, altered my reality and the way I lived my life. Shortly after her funeral, I was with a buddy, we were drinking, and we were up at his place, and he pulled out this plate with some white powder on it. He's like, "Here, put some of this in your nose and see how you feel." Because I was feeling down about losing Grandma. He said it would make me feel better. So it's like, all right. Just as I was going to grab that bill and snort that stuff in my nose, I remember clearly an image of my grandma came up in my mind, and it was this presence from her, and it was not good. Like, she was like, "Don't you dare, like, this isn't what you want to do." But I didn't listen. My buddy said, "Don't worry about it. You'll feel better after this." And yep, that stuff makes you feel like you're superhuman. I remember that was the first night I tried cocaine, and it was a big part of my life for years after that. It started off just every other weekend, but the more I tried it, the more I wanted it. At first, it just made me feel alive, like made me life of the party. It was just this super social cure, like it just made me unstoppable. So right around that time is when I started my first real career. I did some bullshit jobs before that, but I got a job with Manitoba Hydro here in my home province of Manitoba. They're the power company corporation. And it started off like I was on the right path, Found this great job. I was, at that young adult stage where I was trying to figure out my identity. And it didn't take me long to settle into that I am Scott, Manitoba Hydro, the identity. It made me proud, made my friends proud, my family, they were all proud of me. I thought from there on, things were looking really good. I started progressing actually pretty well. Took on all training that was available to me. Didn't turn anything down. And I just wanted to do the best I could at that job. I didn't think drugs and alcohol would ever get in the way of it, but you don't always plan your life that way. Sometimes that stuff kind of takes control of you, and you don't really have any say in the matter. You're just along for the ride. So I spent about 13 years at Manitoba Hydro before I was terminated. They caught me on camera using the company credit card to fill up my personal vehicle with fuel. So it was a pretty traumatic experience. That job was my whole life. It was my identity. And when they told me that you're going to be terminated, I remember my whole life just kind of came to a screeching halt. I didn't know where to go from there. I had a lot of toxic relationships. I was not only addicted to drugs and alcohol, but I was addicted to girls that were damaged and also wanted to party. Had my heart broken a few times. One girl really shattered it. This was right before I really dove into the drugs hard. I kind of saw an identity with her, that we were gonna create this life together, and she ended up dumping me because I was straight up lying to her about doing drugs. I said, no, I'm not doing that. I knew she was against it, so I just denied it. Deny. But she knew. So I was at the time, I was upholding two different identities. So one was this ideal person that I thought she wanted, and then there was the real me. And the real me showed through. She saw that. And like a switch, she turned off all of her feelings, and that destroyed me. So, moved on through life, trying to do what I thought was best for me. I tried, I was into fitness, working out at the gym. I really wasn't about health at the time, even though I said I was. I was just looking to look dominant. I wasn't looking for health, I was looking for vanity. So I just wanted to make sure that I looked good in a t-shirt. Didn't barely train any legs. It was built on stilts. But I wasn't too worried about actual strength. I was worried about how I looked, how I was perceived. Because I was an insecure boy in this big steroided up man body, just trying to get through life. And I remember For years, the drug use started to get more intense. Cocaine back then was unreal compared to what you get these days. I don't even know what that stuff is anymore. But it's dangerous. You don't know what you're getting. And it didn't just stop at cocaine. There was ecstasy, definitely did a lot of that. MDMA. What else did I try? I definitely tried this MDMA that was laced with something. I don't know if it had acid or something in it, but it was an awful trip. Like, I remember looking at my face in the mirror and my pieces of my face was peeling off and stuff. It was horrible. But yeah, it just seemed to compound more and more. The weekends, that's what I looked forward to, was getting together with my buddies and getting a bag of blow, bunch of booze, and we'd make a weekend out of it. Like pretty much every weekend. There's the odd one I would take off just to clear myself out, but for the most part, I'd say for a decade of my life, there was almost every weekend of giving her. And I'm not meaning like in the nights, I mean like from Friday night, steady until Sunday afternoon. No sleep, just straight giving her. I didn't educate myself much. Spent a lot of time just distracting, numbing myself out. I didn't read anything, didn't watch anything educational. A lot of the content I watched was mostly funny stuff, movies, shows, stuff that I thought would help me socially, but definitely didn't help me with my intelligence level. So imagine years and years of that piling up. I didn't really pay much attention to it at the time. I didn't think it was much of an issue. It seemed like everyone around me was doing it. Everyone. But that was just the circle I was involved with. I was always broke. I was playing off like I was this, not rich, but I was well off hydro employee. But at the same time, I had debt up the yin yang. I bought a brand new car, a Honda Civic SI. Payments were way too much. And paying rent, life. Of course, priorities were not bills. Priorities were as long as I had enough money to party on the weekend. That was my main priority. Well, there was so many times where I went to like payday loans, those high interest places, just to get $3,000. And then these consolidation loans, well, it was piling up and it was brutal. Got myself into a lot of trouble financially. It was, I was piling up trauma all over the place. Financially, bad relationships with girls, all the partying. It just piled up more and more. I got into my 30s and I definitely felt like my priorities were a little bit different. I wanted to be a dad so bad. And that was partly why I fell for this one girl so deeply, because she had a young son. And I got to have a little taste of what fatherhood was like, even though he wasn't mine. But I just got to feel what that life was going to be like, that identity. And I fell in love with it. But then she broke it off. I spiraled some, got into pretty good shape, I guess, that one spring, but then followed by a summer of hard partying. My buddy had this beach house on a lake, and I was there every weekend. We had some good times, but man, it was sure hard on the system. That's for sure. So anyway, life rolls on. Another toxic relationship goes by, and then I find another girl, just as toxic, but I fell in love with her. I wasn't looking for a stable relationship. I was wanting chaos. I was addicted to chaos. I wanted someone to party with, you know, someone with some high sexual energy. Just didn't matter if we fought as long as we made up. But that can only last so long. Anyway, this girl ends up calling me one day. I'm at work, and she says she's pregnant. The voice inside of me was like, oh man, like I was, so close to breaking it off with her just because of how crazy it was. Like, she was dealing with major anxiety, still does. Very jealous, like put a lot of trauma on me. And I was always thinking about how I could get out of that relationship. And then she calls me to say she's pregnant. And at that point, I must have been about 33 maybe. And I wanted to be a dad so bad. I was like, she asked me, are we keeping it? I said, yeah. Let's keep it. So at the time, I think we both thought that maybe it would help our relationship. So we had our first son, Chase. He is now 10. And when he was first born, oh man, it was like a new light to my life. I saw some meaning again, some fulfillment. But it didn't last long. Right before he was born, it felt like my life was progressing. Like I was pretty happy. I was partying a bit, but not as much as I was. And my career was really progressing. I remember getting a foreman job. I got the truck to take home, crew of guys to lead. After I was taking courses like crazy on leadership and critical thinking and problem solving. Like that was just in me. Like I've always been a problem solver, and I loved just leading a crew. And more than anything, I got a little bored if things went too smooth. I loved it when things didn't go to plan, because I loved thinking my way out of it. And I was loving life. New son, new promotion. But shortly after he was born, I was starting to use a bit more again. I guess the novelty of having a son was wearing off a little bit. And, the toxicity between me and my girlfriend was not getting any better. It was definitely getting worse. And I could feel it really compounding inside of me, like in my nervous system. I remember journaling in my phone, like, what is this feeling in me? Like it's this, at that point I had heard of anxiety, but I wasn't really sure how real it was, because a lot of people were saying anxiety is just made up, like, you don't need to feel anxious, just go to the gym, do this and that. It'll pass. It's not a big deal. But I remember how much it built up on me and how hopeless I felt. Like my thoughts would just spiral, especially, when I was hungover or after the weekend. The dark thoughts would just keep going. And I had no one to really talk to. Like, I talked to mom and dad sometimes, but I think they even had troubles believing in anxiety at the time. And I couldn't talk to my girlfriend about it because she was dealing with way more than what I was dealing with. So we couldn't talk about it together. We couldn't express what each other was feeling, actually. It was just a lot of silence, and she was in her own head. I was in my own head. And it just seemed to snowball. And I remember it kind of taking over my thoughts. And I was having troubles concentrating at work. I had an incident at work, actually, where we had a gas line dig in. I was responsible for that. I was the foreman in charge. We were just trying to get the job done quickly and efficiently, and skipped a few steps and ended up digging into this gas main. No one got hurt or anything like that, but it was definitely a pivotal moment for my career because I ended up getting some days off. Shortly thereafter, I ended up losing that crew to another guy that had a little more seniority, but he didn't have a gas line dig in on his record. So he got that crew, and I was put back to, I was actually on his crew. So they wanted me, because they knew I was competent at the position, and he was so-so. They put me on that crew to kind of help things move along. But I was not in the headspace to be all that helpful, if you know what I mean. I felt like I was blackballed a little bit. It was a tough time in my career, losing the work truck and losing the ability to lead the crew fully. Kind of lost my identity a little bit there. And that attitude just kept spiraling, got worse. I tried to be positive about it, but after a weekend of giving her again, that would just bring me right back to the negative thoughts again, and why me, pity me, everything's always happening to me. Not that long after, I was able to go see a counselor, and I talked to him a couple times. Of course, right away he wanted to prescribe me some antidepressants. I think at the time I was like, yeah, I got to do something, because I couldn't operate like that. The thoughts were just so loud. Like talking to people. I remember going for supper at my parents'. Mom would be talking to me and I'd just be in my head. I'd be repeating stuff that I already said. I was just lost in that mental loop of noise. During that point of my career, I just felt like Hydro owed me, that I was getting fucked over. I figured I would use the company fuel card to fill my truck, like my personal truck. I wasn't thinking about getting caught. Wasn't worried about anything like that. I was out of my mind. And these antidepressants just seemed to numb me even more. It helped with settling the thoughts out, but it also took my emotion away and just kind of made everything dull. Still using the drugs quite a bit, drinking on these. The one, yeah, I remember it clearly, getting called into the office, the main office at Hydro. They want to talk to you. And at the time I thought they were just gonna give me shit for missing a lot of days, because I was missing quite a few days. Sick days, we had sick days there, and I was abusing them bad. So I thought I was just going in there to talk about those. That's when my union rep told me, he's like, it's got something to do with a fuel card. Oh, and right then I remember my heart sinking. I was like, oh my God, it felt like I was in a nightmare. Like, okay, I was just waiting for myself to wake up. Oh, I remember it was intense. So I remember being in this boardroom, manager there, this hydro cop, whatever he was. It was intense. Full-on interrogation. So at the end, I remember asking, and I was pretty much in tears. I was like, am I going to lose my job over this? And they told me at the time, well, we're not sure. But at that time, I knew they were letting guys go for not much, We were definitely, as employees there, we were definitely feeling more and more like an employee number. And after a few weeks of them doing their investigation, they called me in, and I was pretty sure that I was gonna get fired from whatever, everyone I was talking to is like, they're just no holds barred on this kind of stuff, especially theft. So I kind of accepted that termination was coming. And at the time, I thought of it as a positive turning moment, because I felt like I was really miserable there, and they didn't treat their employees all that great. There were guys getting moved up that were, friends with management, and they were good socially with authority, but I was not. I was an incredible employee, but when it comes to talking to the authorities and stuff like that, management, I would get really anxious and just fumble over my words, and I couldn't talk clearly. I remember moments where I would be up late at night going through what I'm gonna say to my boss, all these things that are troubling me, and trying to piece together. I wouldn't write nothing down. I just figure that I could go over it in my mind and then remember it the next day when I go to talk to him. But of course, as soon as you get into that office and you're in front of him, heart rate gets up, anxiety gets up, and everything that you planned on saying just evaporates. So, yeah, I remember at the time, I was okay with the termination. It was traumatizing, but at the same time, I was like, well, maybe this is a chance for me to change my life and make it better. So, at the time, I remember I had a buddy that was working out in Alberta. He had actually been talking to me for a year, trying to get me to come out there, saying how much money he was making and how great it was. But at the time, I had a girlfriend, kid, mortgage. I just felt like it wasn't the time then until this happened. So then my buddy got me some contacts. I was able to get a job right away in Alberta. So my girlfriend at the time, she was okay with moving away. She kind of wanted to get away from the hometown familiarity, get out of these vicious circles. And she dealt with a lot of anxiety, knowing that she had a rough past and she felt like everyone was judging her. And I definitely wanted to get out of town. I was completely humiliated. You know, I thought everyone was watching me, making fun of me. I felt like a loser. Getting fired from my job for stealing, like, I felt low. Really low. So, tucked my tail between my legs, packed up our camper, and I went to Alberta first. Girlfriend and my son stayed back for a little bit while I went out and started my new job. Lived in the camper for a little bit for the summer. It was great. Worked for this one company for a few months, and right away I felt really entitled. You know, had 13 years in with Hydro. I was a leader. You know, I had a pretty good looking resume on paper. And at the time when I went out there, I really felt like I was more valuable than I actually was. Then my attitude started getting shitty again. Felt like I was worth more than I actually am, when really, you know, I'm just an employee. I got some leadership skills and I know how to build some things, but I wasn't as nearly valuable as what I thought I was. So I left the first company, went to another one. Shortly thereafter, the girlfriend and my kid moved out there. We found a house, bought a brand spanking new house. So right after that, we're mortgaged to the tits. And I remember my plan when I was going out there. It was nailed into my brain. It was like, we're gonna get a house, a newer home. I was expecting to make great money going to Alberta, you know. Gonna go there, make some sick cash, buy a new house, get my new truck that I really wanted. I had already bought my snowmobile, so my priority levels were accumulating items. You know, I had my son, had my dog, had my girlfriend that, even though it was kind of toxic, I thought maybe I was hopeful that it would get better. So I had to get the new house, mortgaged us. I don't know, it was like a $400,000 house. But we loved it. Shortly after, I was working for another company. I was apprenticing to be a power lineman. So I was pretty pumped about that. I felt like life was kind of going on that upward trajectory again. And I was making decent money, working a lot of overtime. I was away from home a fair bit. But the checks were good. So I figured I'd go buy myself a truck. It wasn't a brand new truck, it was a used one, but still it was something that I really wanted. And it was just, I was stubborn. I was like, that's what I want. I knew the girlfriend didn't think it was a great idea, but she saw how badly I wanted it, so went and got my new to me truck. So I got my new house, got my sled, I got my truck, my son, my dog, my girlfriend. Everything seemed to be there, but something was still missing. I couldn't put my finger on it, you know? I felt like, well, it's probably because I need a newer truck, or I need a new side-by-side, you know, something to play in the dirt. I was just reaching and grabbing anything to make this empty feeling going away. I was still drinking a fair bit on the weekends there, pretty much every weekend. For a while, I didn't do any drugs, but of course, where I worked as a power lineman, there was a new guy that got hired and he knew how to get them. I thought, right on, here's my connection. I got a good job, you know, I got a guy that can get me drugs, I'm making good money. I felt like everything was falling into place. But the more I was using the cocaine again, the more I was just feeling in a daze. I wasn't doing my job very good. I was missing days, sick days again. And I remember leaving that job that I felt was a pretty good opportunity. Like if I would have kept apprenticing as a lineman out there, you know, I would have been making, start making $50 an hour and then up to like 80, like it's a big paying job. And at the time there was some, the guy that I was getting drugs from, he turned out to be not a very great guy. I was butting heads with him a little bit. He was an addict too. So he obviously would come to work not feeling well. And I would come to work feeling like shit. So I remember butting heads with him a lot. And instead of toughing it out or turning a blind eye to it, I remember just thinking that I needed to get out of there. And at that time, there was an oil crash and COVID-19 hit. So the economy was sliding and there was rumors of possibly getting laid off from this place. So I ended up finding this other job that I thought was a huge opportunity because I had natural gas experience at Hydro. I got this job as a field technician for this natural gas company. It was a co-op. So, and I was talking to like my neighbor and he heard that I got this job. He's like, oh man, you like won a lottery, dude. So I was pretty pumped to work there, but started there. It was a 9 to 5 type thing. Money wasn't nearly what I thought it would be. It was cushy, way too cushy for me. You know, I need to be physical, moving, you know, problem solving. But there was a lot of days just sweeping the shop. A lot of the old guys there just loved it, but it wasn't really my speed. And I remember my mentality definitely going downhill again. Made some friends there, or one friend anyway. Well, I made a friend at the power line company too. He was gonna actually get me a job with this other company. But I called him when I was working at this new gas company. And I remember he didn't answer. And I messaged him, texted him. Got a message back from his number. It was his girlfriend saying that he passed away. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. So I asked around with the guys that I worked there with. I was like, what happened to Nick? And I guess he took his own life. He hung himself in a hotel room. I knew he was going through some mental problems himself. Big time. He had a injury, back injury, and he used to be a drug addict, but he was dealing with a lot of pain. So I wasn't surprised, but it kind of shocked me. And then it wasn't too many months after that I ended up quitting the job I was at, that field technician. I got a job up on this power dam, like the generating station dam, running heavy equipment. And I hadn't run much heavy equipment before, just some mini excavators, and I had just started doing some excavator work. But I went and got my operator ticket to see if that would help me get jobs, because I wanted to make some big boy money, you know? I wanted to make Alberta money. So I quit that cushy job and went up, did one stint, and I got let go shortly after because I was making a lot of mistakes. I thought I could just go up there, no experience, and just figure it out. And I mean, I was, but they weren't seeing my progress. They just saw the mistakes I made, so didn't get invited back. So that was right around the same time that my youngest son, Luke, was born. He was born, oh man, like 3 or 4 months premature. It was a pretty scary moment for us. He was like 3 pounds, 8 ounces. And he made me feel a different kind of love. It was tough seeing him in that little incubator, but I got to watch him from home. We got to, because COVID, we weren't allowed to be at the hospital very much, so I was able to watch him from a webcam on my phone. And anyway, I remember after I got laid off from that one job, I kind of just accepted the layoff and wanted to be at home with him. So I went on EI, just stayed at home and raised my kids. My girlfriend was there as well, so we were both home all the time. She was on mat leave. Yeah, a couple is like 3 months after finding out that Nick took his own life. I was hanging out with this one buddy of mine that I worked with at the gas technician place, and I was with him on this one weekend, and I remember him. He was in a tough place as well mentally. He was doing a lot of drugs. We were doing drugs together, cocaine. And I remember one night, he really looked up to me. He would beat himself up, the fact that I had the new house, that I had the nice truck and the kids, and the girlfriend, and he saw that I wasn't happy. And I remember seeing that pain in his face. See, like, if someone like me isn't happy, then he felt hopeless, I guess. But I remember him taking off from my house that night. And he had this blank stare. He told me he loved me. He took off that night with some friends. I didn't like the vibes. But right after the weekend, his girlfriend was messaging me, like, have you seen him? You know where Colin is? Like, no, he left my house the other night. And they're like, well, we haven't heard from him and we don't know where he is. And then I remember her calling me on like the Sunday night and said that she was just crying so hard. Said they found him in his apartment. He's passed away. They said that he was on antidepressants and he drank too much. But I could see it in his eyes. He didn't want to be living anymore. Oh, that was a tough one. So yeah, spent a few more months out there in Alberta, Spruce Grove. And just didn't feel like I had anything left to do there. I felt like really something needed to change. I ended up applying for jobs back in Manitoba. So this is 3 years later after we moved out there. And me and the girlfriend, we agreed we were gonna separate. So, the anxiety was unreal. I was just having fights with her in my mind all day. thinking about what my life was going to look like. Separating from my boys. And I just kept replaying what life was going to look like. And I was hopeful at the time because I just wanted to get better. I knew that I couldn't stay in that relationship and get better. It was too toxic. It was just, I was always trying to explain myself, or like, we had a pretty girl that lived next door and I couldn't even go to the garage without me getting glares from the girlfriend. She thinking that I had something going on with the neighbor. I was just constantly trying to explain myself or protect myself. It was mentally exhausting. So I ended up finding a job in Manitoba. We sold the house. She stayed back for a bit and took care of the sale, and she took care of getting most of the house packed up into a U-Haul. Hired some movers. I got myself a job in Manitoba as a foreman on this. It was a fiber optic installation crew. So I thought, hey, things are looking up again. So we moved back to Manitoba, not without some drama. She threatened a few times to stay back in Alberta and keep the boys there and keep living there, because her best friend was living there in Calgary. So I remember her tugging at my emotions with that quite a bit. I thought she duped me. It's like, you said we were gonna move back together. But she was hurt. She didn't want to separate, I don't think. She was just reacting. I see that now, but at the time it was rough. So anyway, I started working at this new place, and you know, that feeling of working at a new company, new beginnings. Had to live with my parents for a little bit. That kind of sucked. And especially around COVID time, they are so liberal, so glued to their TV sets and their CTV news, and you know, they were all up on me to get vaccinated, and I just smelled something weird was going on with all that, which luckily I trusted my instincts and didn't get the vaccination. But I remember Dad telling me, he's like, you got to get vaccinated, because everyone was saying it was for their safety. If I don't get vaccinated, then I'm putting my parents at risk. Not to mention, you know, I've had asthma when I was young, so my mom thought if I got COVID, I would be dead right away. And I just said, I don't agree with that. I don't like how this is being pushed. It just felt weird. My bullshit meter was definitely on high alert. And I remember Dad saying, like, well, if you're not going to get vaccinated, you got to move out of our house. So it was a little weird there for a while. But I ended up finding myself a house. This one, actually. And it's the perfect house. I love this place. I love the neighborhood. Just things were going up again. Work was going good. I was doing really good at my job. They were recognizing that. I was getting raises, got a new truck. They covered a seasonal campsite for me. They were taking really good care of me, but after the time went by, you know, once you get something new and you have it for a while, the novelty kind of starts to wear off. And I wasn't seeing my boys nearly as much as I wanted to. Like, our agreement at the time was I'd get them for every second weekend. So for every second weekend, I would get them for the 2 days on the weekend. And the rest of the time, I was usually on the road working, but I didn't get to see them during the week. And, they were at that age, 1, and Chase was like 6. Our relationship was feeling it. Whenever I had them, it was, numbing. They'd be on their tablets or video games, and I'd be watching YouTube and, snowmobile videos, drinking, watching other people live their best lives. Well, I was just sitting here, numbing myself, distracting myself, just hoping the pain would go away. I wasn't using drugs anymore. I mean, the odd time it got pulled out at a party and I had some, but I wasn't buying it. I wasn't using it regularly. It's like every once in a while. But I was still drinking every weekend. I remember inviting my girlfriend's younger brother to live in my basement because he was having troubles finding a place to live, and he's very negative background from him. So he moved in. I thought that maybe I would rub off on him, the responsible guy that I thought I was. But it just kind of made me get worse. I saw all the negativity that he was bringing in here. Homeless friends, and they're drinking all the time. No respect for my place. So that was tough. Oh, and that job that was going so great ended up getting fired. I had a little yelling match with one of the supervisors there. Apparently he was an alcoholic as well, so you get a couple alcoholics showing up at work and things don't go smoothly. You don't have calm conversations, that's for sure. So here I thought I was standing up for myself, but ended up getting fired and lost my campsite that I was so proud of, had to sell my camper, and I was jobless again. Ended up getting another job, heavy equipment operator, another mindless position, driving dump trucks. And this one winter, all I did was drive a tandem dump truck and haul snow removal. It was brutal. But at the time, I remember feeling like I wanted to do something more with my life. Because there was this breaking moment that I had. It was after, I wasn't even drinking, it was just a week of work. I remember coming home on the Friday and I was so exhausted. I remember sleeping. We were working about an hour away, and I remember sleeping all the way home. I just felt so tired and exhausted. Came home, went straight to bed, and I remember waking up the next day in the morning, and I had all these awful thoughts in my mind, all this pain. Felt like I can't go on like this. It's just too much. I don't think I want to be living anymore. I remember texting my mom. I said, I don't know what's going on, but I'm having these thoughts and I don't want to die. But I'm having all these thoughts that tell me that just go. And every time I would have those thoughts, my boys' faces they'd picture in my mind. I got so fucking mad at myself. It's like, how could you even think like that? You're not going anywhere. That was a tough moment, but an important one. Took some time off drinking for a while there. Stopped numbing myself with bullshit content on TV. Started listening to podcasts, more educational. It's like feeding my mind intentionally. No more snowmobile videos and Family Guy. And I didn't start listening to books yet, but I just remember listening to a lot of podcasts. Joe Rogan was a huge mentor of mine. He made me think about being successful. And he made me think about what it takes to live a life that you're proud of. And, in order to do that and live a high quality life, you got to take full ownership for your life. So I stopped blaming everyone else for my issues. Just took full ownership. Because I remember just blaming everyone. Everyone else was the problem for my downslide. It's not. I can't remember where I heard it, but I heard if you want to progress and be successful, you have to take full 100% responsibility for your life. That sunk in. So I started training my body a bit more, being a lot more conscious of what I was eating. Started doing more things to help my body and mind, like fasting. I did up to a 3-day water fast. I was just whatever I could do to put myself in a discomfort, because I knew I was being comfortable too much. And that was my downfall. It's choosing comfort all the time. So I kind of said, fuck the comfort. Started doing cold showers. Was doing cold plunges at the gym. Just doing whatever I could to get myself out of the comfort zone. And it helped quite a bit. I wanted to learn mental resiliency. I wanted to try and tame the thoughts in my head. So I just started researching and reading up on mental mastery. Each book kind of took me deeper and deeper into consciousness. And the more and more I got into consciousness, the more and more God would come up, and faith. So I'm not religious per se, but over the past year I've learned so much about consciousness and listened to so many different books. Joe Dispenza, Bob Proctor, Napoleon Hill, so many different books. And they always lead to a higher power. God, for a lack of a better term. So I started practicing a lot of gratitude. That helps so much. Started a gratitude journal. So I would write 3 things in it every night, something that I was grateful for that day. That helped me immensely. But I think the biggest moment of my life so far has been when I went up to the Yukon Territory. I got offered this job to go up, live in this cabin in the woods up by Watson Lake, Yukon. Nothing much out there, just a lot of trees. It's the foothills of the mountains. There's a little town nearby, but there wasn't much there. We just had to clear this land for a mining company, and so all I did was sit in an excavator or a dozer and push trees, level the land. And I went up there with the mentality that, because I was starting to learn more about like consciousness and a bit about faith. And I remember reading this book by Michael A. Singer. It was The Surrender Experience, where you stop forcing your life. It blew my mind. It's like, that's me. I'm just forcing my life. I'm making decisions when I'm upset, not making decisions from a calm mind. And I said to myself on my way up to there, to the Yukon, what a journey to get up there. Holy man, 2 flights, plus a 5-hour bus ride just to get to this cabin. But I told myself, I'm gonna go there and it's gonna be nothing but personal growth. And I'm going to keep myself calm. I had heard about meditation, so I was going to practice that every day, eat healthy, work out every day. Actually, I worked out twice a day, once in the morning, once in the evening after work. And I told myself I was just going to listen to books all day, 12 hours a day, earbuds in. Luckily we had Starlink internet there, so I was able to download a whole bunch of different books and podcasts. And it was just me and one other guy there, so I didn't have to be talking to him or a crew. I just would put my earphones in and listen to books. I did that for the whole summer. I didn't know what books I was going to listen to at the time. I just felt like I was going to surrender to whatever it was and make sure I keep my mind in a nice calm state and just see where it would take me. And wow, it was the best decision of my life, to go up there and just surrender to life. Don't try and force anything. Just feed my mind intentionally. Feed my body with clean, whole foods. Drink a lot of water. Lots of movement. I didn't want to just sit in the excavator all day, so I would set an alarm on my phone. For every hour, on the hour, I would stop the machine and get out and do 20 push-ups and 20 squats. And after a week, they were getting easy because I was doing that like 13 times a day. It would work out to be every hour. So it didn't take long before I was doing 40 push-ups and 40 squats every hour. I forget how many push-ups and squats I did this one turn around. It was like in the 10,000s. So that was the best shape I've ever been. I got visible abs for the first time ever. I enrolled into boxing, which was always a fear of mine because I had asthma, so I didn't really, had this fear in me of pushing my body too hard because of my lung capacity. I didn't want to have an asthma attack while I'm working out. But I pushed past that fear, and took boxing, hardest workout of my life. But after I was done there, I just had so much confidence that I could pretty much do anything I want to do. And that confidence just kept compounding. Every day, every meditation, every clean meal, every book, every podcast, just compounded. Every day, every week, every month. And wow. I remember after, it was probably a couple weeks of meditating every day, I would just listen to a guided meditation. So, the guided meditations kind of just guide you along and tell you what you should be focusing on, tell you when to breathe, and you don't really have to think much. You just follow prompts. And I remember sitting in the excavator, just looking around, and like my mind was clear. And everything had so much more vibrancy to it. Like everything had more color. I felt this, joy. No drugs, something that usually I had to put a powder in my nose or take a pill to feel this joy. It felt amazing. What a huge part of my life going up there. It was for a month at a time, but when I got home, I ended up getting 10 days in a row with my sons. So to me, that was better than just the 2 days every 2 weeks. But I knew that wasn't what I wanted to do forever. But just the time that I had up there to be with nature, to be with myself, and to just feed my mind like crazy. I was a madman. I thought about it after, and I learned about this, that you can usually take one addiction and transmute it into another addiction. So I believe that for me, my addiction for drugs transmuted into an addiction for learning. It's just been nonstop. Like if I'm not learning something every day, I feel like I'm getting behind, and I feel a little bit of anxiety if I'm not feeding my mind, intentionally. Oh, so many great books I've listened to. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. That book taught me about how your thoughts that you're thinking every day kind of shape your reality. I listened to that book probably 10 times. There isn't one book that I say changed my life. I'd say it's definitely a compilation of all of them. Even some of the books that I didn't like so much, I figure I took something away from all of them. I think I got a list of about 40 books so far on my Audible. Listened to a lot of them multiple times. All personal growth, consciousness, how the mind works, psychology. I just wanted to figure out what was going on up here. I still have a long way to go, but the growth I've experienced so far is unreal. So unreal. So yeah, I got back from the Yukon. It was like maybe a couple of years ago now. We had to get out of there before the snow flies because she gets pretty cold and snowy. Ended up coming back, worked for a company, same thing, running equipment, but I was listening to audiobooks, still feeding my mind intentionally, but I still felt this anxiety, like, oh, sitting in this machine all day. This is not what I'm meant to do. Absolutely not. So I did it a bit longer. I really loved directional drilling. I really liked it. But it was one of those things that it was just a new challenge to me at the time. I ended up getting what I thought was my dream job back out in Alberta. I got hired to run a directional drilling crew. Another one of those big money jobs, but away from home. So I lasted out there about a 4-week stint. And I remember one morning, I was in my hotel room and I finished doing a meditation. And I had this experience where just this overwhelming sense of love and joy. Like I was crying. I felt so amazing. I was in this shitty little hotel room in Grand Prairie, Alberta, and I felt so unbelievably loved and so clear. And after that, I just had this feeling like I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. So last year, before Christmas, I told them, thank you for the opportunity, but there's something else out there for me. I don't know what it is yet, but I got to get home to my boys and figure things out. So I remember on my drive home, I think it was like a 16-hour drive home. Roads were shitty, lots of snow. I think I got about halfway home and I had the thought, I was like, why don't you start a YouTube channel? Like, you've been learning so much, and all my mentors that I get educated by, they always keep saying that if you really want to live a fulfilling life, you need to help others. And that really resonated with me. Because I do like the feeling of helping others, any good deed. And I got thinking, you're learning a lot about consciousness and meditation, and I've helped myself so much over the last few years. It's like, well, I could make some content to pay it forward to other people. So I got home, obviously procrastinated about it for a while, fearful of people seeing me, feeling vulnerable. I knew I wasn't going to be good at it right off the get-go, and I wasn't. Just like when I thought I was going to be awesome at boxing when I first started. because I had been watching UFC for 10 years. It's like, oh yeah, this boxing will be a piece of piss. I'm going to pick it up quick. No. It's like anything you try for the first time, expect to suck at it. And January 13th, 2025, I started my YouTube channel. Disciplined Being. It was going to be about personal growth and give tools, all the stuff that I have learned, all the different methods that I do, my routines every day. I was going to teach other people and hope that it would, resonate with someone else and potentially pull someone else out of a dark spot like I was in. Not that I've fixed myself completely by any means. I still have the odd bad day. But the progress I've made over the past year is astronomical. This past year, I haven't worked anywhere. I've kind of taken solitude in my house here. I read, I train, I, feed my body and my mind intentionally. And I love it. I haven't had a whole lot of feedback from my channel or social media, but I've had enough to know that it's affecting people positively. And that, I remember hearing my first comment. This guy said how much it meant to him. And I lost it, started crying. I'm like, yes, it's working. Oh, I loved that feeling, just of hearing someone say thank you. Thank you for helping me. Whew, wrote down a bunch of goals. I was gonna start a podcast. I had been learning lots about a one-person business model, like a digital creator. And I follow this one guy on YouTube, Dan Co. And he always talked about digital products and, you can create a how-to guide easily and sell it on the internet. And it's something that you don't have to keep stocking on your shelf. It's just infinite. And it's there forever. I've been using AI quite a bit over the last year. It's helped me so much. Get me my channel started. Helps me with creating a lot of my content, thumbnails, research. I journal with my chat GPT quite a bit. I don't ask it a lot of questions, but I give it a lot of information that I like to talk about. How I'm feeling, helps me interpret dreams. It's like my therapist, more or less. But it's not a human. So you don't get the negative attributes that you get from a human. Like a lot of people in mental health and therapy, not every human is totally present there and really all in with their job. You talk to Chat GPT and there's it doesn't have bad days. It just tells you straight up facts. And it's helped me so much over the year. But yeah, what a journey so far. And here I am shooting episode 1 of the Presence Experience. named after the Joe Rogan Experience, obviously. Oh, sitting here with my dog, Ellie. She's not getting any younger. She's 14 now. She's been with me through some tough times. And she's still here. I think we still have some great days coming up. But I think we'll finish it up here. We've talked about lots. I have so much more to talk about. Right now, I'm here solo, but I've talked to people that I'm going to have on as guests. We're going to talk about history of ourselves, our trauma, what programmed us along the way, what made us who we are, and what we're doing to make a better version of ourselves. That's my new identity. I didn't know what to call myself, like a personal growth coach. I know I'm a coach, and I have so much to pay forward to everyone. So for the time being, I'm calling myself a transformation coach, because that's what I've been doing to myself. Been straight up transforming myself. I've been, creating my own digital or guided meditations to help myself let go of some limiting beliefs that I had that really helped me shed the fear of judgment, which is allowing me to post a lot of this content more confidently. I still suck at it, but at least now I have a chance to progress and get way better at it. And yeah, I want to talk to some other people that are on this same path. This path of transformation, personal growth, identity shifting, shedding limited beliefs that don't serve us, and installing new beliefs that for damn sure will serve us. The biggest one I had to install was I'm totally worthy of everything coming my way. I'm worthy of success financially. I'm worthy of love. So for a long time, I didn't think I was worthy of love. Kept losing relationships. I kept messing them up. But I've done a lot of internal work, and I know that I'm worthy of all of the positive stuff coming my way. So with that being said, we're going to end it here. Episode 1. Many more to come. The presence experience. Thank you for being here. We'll see you guys in the next one. If something in this conversation resonated with you, take a moment to sit with it. Presence isn't about fixing yourself. It's about paying attention long enough to stop abandoning who you already are. If you're serious about doing the work, you're in the right place. Thanks for spending this time with me. This is the Presence Experience. I'll see you in the next one.